back to Wild Sunny Farms. I'm Grayson, and today I want to talk about being proactive rather than being reactive. Proactive beekeeping management. Now, I've talked about this before in a live stream, but today I want to make it a little bit more of a proper speech, a little bit more into it, because in the live stream that I did about being proactive rather than reactive, I don't think I really did a good job at explaining it properly in the right scenario. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about proactive and just have a little conversation and talk to everybody for a little bit, and maybe this will help you guys out, you know, being proactive rather than being reactive, and why is being reactive worse than being proactive, and why should you be proactive rather than reactive. And this will be a good topic, and let's go on into it. So a lot of times whenever something bad happens in the bee apiary, it's happened to me, so there's years like this year where I was being proactive, and what really simply what proactive means is making sure that your bees are alright, of course, like we always do, and preventing a bad scenario, a bad situation from happening. But being reactive is reacting at a bad situation at the time. I've reacted to a lot of situations before, and that doesn't do any good. It's better to be proactive. It's better to make sure that your bees are good, so then you can prevent any outcome in the future. Now, of course, you can't really tell the future. There's no way really to do that. But what you can do is prepare your bees as much as possible, right? That is being proactive. Making sure that your bees have enough food. That's why you gotta sit down for a moment and think about it. You gotta think to yourself, make sure, do my bees have enough food to go 3-4 months in straight cold weather because I'm in Canada or the northern part of the United States? Or you gotta think about, do I leave a super on, or do I take a super off, or what do I need to do? Moisture? Do I need to make sure that my bees are treated with varroa mites? Make sure my bees are alright? Make sure the count of varroa mites are not too high, because if your varroa mite counts are high, that's going to cause the winter bees to, the life of a winter bee would be about 4 to 6 months, but with the varroa mite, will harm that bee and shrink the life down to about half that, and that winter bee won't get half of its life that it needs to get into spring, early spring. That's when the queen will start laying the new bees that will live for about a month. So it's really important just to think about those things for maybe a couple minutes and see what you need to do. That's being proactive. Reactive is whenever something happens. Let's say your bees died and you don't know why, and you're like, oh no, my bees died. You know, you're reacting to it, and that happens in life. It happens all the time, and I get it that it does happen. But instead of being reactive, let's think about it for a second. Instead of being reactive at a bad situation, before we even react to it, we need to be proactive. We need to make sure before that bad situation happened, we need to be before that. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's basically simple as it is that I can say it. Now, I've been in situations before me that I've made bad splits. I've done mistakes. I should have avoided those mistakes, but I didn't. That's my fault. I can't blame the bees because they died, because I was the one who put them in the box, so it's my responsibility, right? That's the way I take it into myself, that, alright, so my bees died, it's my fault because I didn't do something right. Maybe I didn't treat. Maybe they had too many varroa mites. Maybe they starved. And the best way to know if they starved out is if the bee's butt is sticking out of the cells. That means that they're trying to get warm. They're either trying to get warm, or they're trying to get any last drop of honey before they die. And that's what happens whenever they starve. And it's really important that we take this into consideration whenever we are not doing anything. Whenever we're just inside, just taking a break, doing nothing. You know, that's what I do sometimes. I think, you know, about being proactive instead of reactive. It's really important. I just want to talk about this today. I've been in a lot of scenarios, like I said. So now let's talk about a couple scenarios. I already said starvation. Now let's talk about moisture. Let's say your bees died because of moisture. Let's be proactive on that before anything happens. Before you get into winter, go out to the bee yard. See what you have on hand. Do you got a quilt box? If you don't have a quilt box, you don't have to have a quilt box. You can make a homemade quilt box. I have a video before that I talked about making a homemade cheap quilt box. Just like simple. I'll leave it in the description below if you want to go check it out. Let's say, you know, you can do that. Every small thing varroa mites, wind. A lot of people are not even thinking about wind. Nobody's thinking about wind. Nobody's thinking about moisture. Nobody's thinking about those things. So if you can get ahead of yourself, if you, not really, you don't want to get ahead of yourself too much, but if you can, just think about things, the very small things that most beekeepers don't think about, like wind, moisture, varroa mites, everybody thinks about that. A lot of other things. Make sure your bees don't starve. You can go out to the bee yard the next day and start preparing for that winter ahead. And what I like to do is, I don't like to under-prepare. You don't know what's going to happen in winter. The Weather Channel may say, oh, well, this winter should be a lovely, very warm winter. And then the next week, you see, it's going to be below, let's say, 30. It's going to be below 20. So sometimes you can't always rely on the weather. You got to keep ahead of the weather, but you also can't rely on the weather. And, you know, the Weather Channel, whatever. You got to make sure that your bees are prepared for anything and everything. You got to make sure your bees have enough food. You got to get out there and do those things. You got to do those things if you want your bees to get through winter. And if you don't do those things and you come back whenever your bees dies and ask what's the problem, that's the problem because you didn't do anything. So, you know, I just wanted to talk about this and get it out there, a message to everybody. Hopefully this will be somewhat information. Maybe it'll do something good. Anyway, that we have to think about these things. We gotta be proactive. I see a lot of people being reactive and reacting to a situation like, oh no, my bees died, what happened, what happened, and, you know, stressing out, and, you know, not knowing what to do, but they could have. Now, of course, if you're a new beekeeper, of course, you know, you may lose a hive or two. You can be proactive. Now, there's a lot of situations where I could say, well, you don't gotta be, there's a lot, it can go any way, any direction, anywhere. But being proactive is mostly for the, you know, second-year beekeeper, third-year beekeeper, because, you know, hey, you may be a new beginner. If you're a new beginner here, you gotta also think about that too, about being proactive rather than being reactive. And that's really just something that is important to think about, because I see it all the time. So, proactive. And a lot of people are there thinking, what? Why do we have to be proactive? It doesn't mean anything. It means everything. It means if your bees can get through winter. So, you know, it's not just winter, also summer, also spring, getting ready for spring. If you know your goals and things. Proactive goes into a lot of different things, not just beekeeping. Maybe it goes into your life. Maybe you got to be proactive at something instead of being reactive at something. Maybe you are a hunter or something. Maybe you just got to be proactive or whatever. And it goes into a lot of different situations that people have to use every day. Proactive, being proactive rather than reacting to the situation at that time. And that's why, for me, when I'm looking at this topic head on, I want to be proactive. That's me. I want to make sure that I can do everything that I can do to be proactive. Everything I can do to make sure my bees are going to get into winter alright. Make sure my bees have what they need for the hardest winter. Now you may say, like I said earlier, well, the winter's probably not going to be bad, so why do I got to over-prepare? A lot of people don't like to over-prepare. They don't like to take the time to over-prepare. So that's the thing in beekeeping. You got to be able to do everything that you have to keep your bees alive, because you're the one who decided, alright, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get some bees, I'm going to remove them from a tree, or I'm going to remove them from a camper, I'm going to put them in this box. Alright, you got this box with bees in it. You're the one who put them in there. Now it is your responsibility. So that's why, before you get into beekeeping, you just want to think about that. Do I have what it takes to do what I need to do for the bees? If you have what it takes to do it, good job. If you don't, then maybe beekeeping isn't the skill set for you. Maybe there's something else that you have in mind that you'd rather do. But I always suggest to get into beekeeping. But before you get into beekeeping, make sure that you can do what it takes to be a beekeeper. And what is those things that take to be a beekeeper? Number one, being proactive. And of course, you could say, well, it don't matter. Proactive and being proactive doesn't matter. Well, you know, that's your opinion. But to me, proactive is one of the biggest things that a beekeeper can do to be successful. And everybody's asking, how do I be successful at keeping bees? And everybody just wants this list. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and I'm a successful beekeeper. It don't work that way. I'm very sorry, but it don't work that way. The way it works is experience, timing of how long you be a beekeeper, because a lot of my information I'm telling you right now is from how long I've been keeping bees. I've been keeping bees about 7 years, when I was 7 years old. So, you know, it's just, it comes in time. So if you're a new beginner and you lose a hive, it's just because maybe you need a little bit more time to get into beekeeping to know everything. There's a lot of hands-on experience that you need to know, and time. And there's a lot of information that you can get online or beekeepers can tell you. So it's not always about, I can tell you this and I'll tell you this and you're going to be a successful beekeeper. It 100% doesn't work that way. And, you know, I can tell you some things, some tips, some tricks that may help you out. But there's a lot of times where I may tell you something that I like to do and it does not work for you because, one, you have a different climate. Number two, your bees, you have different genetics or something's different with your hive style. I have 10 frame, you have a 8 frame. So it really is personal preference on all the things I'm saying, but it comes down to on how much experience you have, and the experience that you do have, you know what bees are, you know some of those basic things. So, you know, I don't want to keep on and on about this, but I really think it is important that we think about these things. And that, along with that, goes with this whole thing. Everything I'm saying right now goes back to one thing. I'm going on to all these different topics, but it always slides into one thing, and that is being proactive. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Go on and click the thumbs up button. I hope you guys all had a good Christmas, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.